හරිම සුමුදුයි.
Tonight on First at 9 this Friday, the 15th of December 2023. Stay the course. CBSL chief warns of veering off the IMF path to Sri Lanka's sustainable economic growth with severe ramifications if it does. Modern warfare. President Wickremesinghe warns of the threat of a more sinister, diabolical modus of modern warfare that is fought off the traditional battlefield. GDP spike. Sri Lanka's GDP for the third quarter of 2023 sees a welcome increase.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
නියම මෝල්ට් සාරය සමග මැලිබන් මෝල්ට් දැන් රුපියල් 750ක් පමණයි.
This is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and a warm welcome to you from AdaDerana's English News First at 9. This is Jonathan Benedict. Let's take a look at our Friday night news for the evening, starting with our top story right now. Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe says that the program with the International Monetary Fund has to be carried forward by whichever government is in power in the future, adding that the debt relief from bilateral creditors can be only obtained if the program continues. Delivering a lecture at the central bank today, the CBSL chief is of the view that Sri Lanka stands to potentially service $6 billion of debt every year if the country veers away from the program with the IMF. Speaking further, he also highlighted the importance of the assurance provided by the IMF, which states that Sri Lanka's debt servicing ability is improving.
එකට හිටපු ජනාධිපතිතුමා ජාත්‍යන්තර මුල්ල රැපුලෙන් ඉල්ලීමක් කරලා තිබ්බ සපෝට් පැකේජ් එකක්. නමුත් ඒ සඳහා කිසිම ක්‍රියාමාර්ගයක් අරගෙන තිබුණෙත් නැහැ. ඒක රුපියල පාකල් හැරලා කන්ට්‍රෝල් එක නැතුව බැංකුව එතකොට ඩිෆෝල්ට් කරලා තිබ්බේ. අපේ සංචිත තිබුණේ මිලියන 25ක් විතර ඉදිරියේ මාස 12 තුළ බිලියන 6ක් ණය ගෙවන්න තියෙන රටක කෙටි කාලීනව ගෙවන්න තියෙන ණය ගෙවන්නත් මුදල් තිබුණේ නැහැ. රජය අනවුන්ස් කරා අර తాවකාලික ණය ගෙවීම අත්හිටනවා කියන එක. ඒ අවස්ථාවේ ගන්න තිබිච්ච හොඳම තීරණය තමයි ඒක. මොකද දැන් ලොකු වාදයක් විවාදයක් තියෙනවා මම දකින්න ගොඩක් තැන්වල ණය බංකොලොත් බව ප්‍රකාශ කරපු නිසා තමයි අපි මේ තත්ත්වෙ ඉන්නේ කියන එක. ඒ අවස්ථාවේ අපි සිද්ධ කරේ తాවකාලිකව ණය ගෙවීම අත්හිට වීම. බංකොලොත් භාවය අනවුන්ස් ප්‍රකාශ කරන කියන්නේ බැංක්‍රප්සි අනවුන්ස් කරන එක. තාක්ෂණික වශයෙන් අපි දන්නවා මේ දෙකක්. බංකොලොත් භාවය ප්‍රකාශ කරා කියලා කියන්නේ ණය ගෙවන්න බෑ. තමන්ගේ තියෙන පත්කම් සිල්මු දේ විකුණලා දාලා නායකාරෝ ඉන්න පිළිවෙලට ණයට ගෙවලා දාලා පැත්තකටලා ඉන්න. ඒ වගේ තත්යකට සිදුවීම වැළැක්වීම තමයි ඩෙට් ස්ටෑන්ඩ්ස්ටිල් කියලා කියන්නේ. తాවකාලිකව ණය ගෙවීම අත්හිටවනවා. නමුත් යම්කිසි කාලයක් තුළ ණය ප්‍රතිවිගත කරලා අපි නැවත ගෙවන්න පටන් ගන්නවා. මම දකින්න විදිහට රට බංකොලොත් තුනේ නැහැ. මට ඇහෙනවා සමහර වාද විවාද එක කමිටු වල ගිහිල්ලා කතා කරනවා. බංකොලොත් බව ප්‍රකාශ කරන්නේ නැතුව කාට හරි ටෙලිෆෝන් කරලා මේ ණය කල් දා ගන්න තිබුණා. එහෙම රටකින් රටකට ගත්ත ණය ටෙලිෆෝන් කෝල් එකකින් කල් දාන්න ඉතිහාස කොහෙවත් කවදාවත් වෙලා නැහැ. ඒ වගේ නිකන් විහිළු කතා තමයි අපි දැක්කේ බහුව කාලේ සමහරු කියනවා මේකට. ඊට පස්සේ ජාත්‍යන්තර මුල් ආධාර මුදලෙන් ඒ දෙන මුදල් ආධාරය නෙමෙයි වැදගත් වෙන්නේ. ඒ දෙන සහතිකය. කියනවා අපේ ණය යෙමි හැකියාව දැන් වැඩි වෙනවා කියන එක. ජපානයේ, චීනයේ, ඉන්දියාව, පැරිස් ක්ලබ් වගේ ජාත්‍යන්තර මුල් ආධාර මුදලේ වැඩසටහනේ අපි ඉන්න නිසා තමයි ඒගොල්ලෝ එකඟ වෙන්නේ. තියෙන ණය තොගෙන් US ඩොලර් බිලියන 17ක යම්කිසි මේ ඉදිරි අවුරුදු 10 තුළ අඩුවීමක් තමයි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ. ඒ ණය ප්‍රතිවගත කිරීම කරන තුලින්. එතන වැසන ඊළඟ අවුරුදු 4කට යනවා. රජය මොකක් වුණත් ජාත්‍යන්තරව අපේ ණය දෙන ආයතන පිළිගන්නේ මේ වැඩපිළිවෙල ඉදිරියට යනවා විතරයි මේ ණය සාහන දිගටම පවත්වා ගන්න පුළුවන්. ඒකෙන් අයින් වුණොත් අවුරුද්දකට බිලියන 6ක් ගන්න ණය ගෙවන්නයි පුළුවන්කමක් තියෙන්න ඕන. අරගල කරපු කාට වඩා වැඩි අමාරු කාලයක් ජනතාවට තිබුණා ඊට පස්සේ කාලේ. යම්කිසි එක පේනකොට ඉවසීමෙන් ජනතාව ඉඳගෙන මෙතෙක්කල් ඒ අවස්ථාව තේරුම් අරගෙන හිටපු එකේ තාම වැදගත්.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe emphasized the peculiar nature of the ongoing war in Gaza, which is slated to have a big impact on Sri Lanka and other nations worldwide. Addressing a gathering yesterday, the president drew attention to the ongoing changing landscape of modern warfare, with battles extending beyond traditional battlefields into homes through the age and power of media coverage.
The Course 17 award ceremony of the Defence Services Command and Staff College was held at the Nelumpokana Theatre yesterday under the patronage of President Ranil Wickremesinghe.
There's a war taking place now, which is going to have a big impact in our part of the world and outside. That is the war in Gaza. A war which started with an attack by Hamas on Israel, with the global sympathy on Israel, which over 2 months has now shifted to a global sympathy for Palestine. Not for Hamas, but for Palestine. How much that has changed? How are this group of fighters taking on one of the most powerful armies in the world? They are not even an armed force. If you look at this war, it's different from others. Hamas can lose every battle. They say in a war, what you have to do is to win the last battle. But in this case, Hamas can lose every battle, but they'll win the war. Israel can win every battle, but they can't win the war. Because public sympathy today throughout the world has moved to the Palestinian case. So even if every member of the Hamas organization is wiped out tomorrow, the cause will not die. The next generation is already there. And instead of being confined to a small area in the Middle East, it will be one that will be global. We are seeing that impact in Europe. We are seeing that impact even in America, in the US, where its most prestigious education institutes are today split, whether it be MIT, whether it be Harvard, whether it be Penn State, or some of the others that are not mentioned. So this has been a political battle by an organization which was not military trained for this, a group of guerrilla, but they had planned a battle for this situation. They have put in an area very small, a few hundred square miles, 300 miles of tunnels, a new type of war. Okay, how do you fight that? I was listening yesterday to the Israeli defense minister saying, on one hand, Hamas is collapsing in Gaza. And I read today another article by the Ben Gurion Center, which says the fight is going on. So it's a political fight with a military content, and a fight that is being taken on. The global media fight, sympathy, they have already conquered because of the killings of about 18,000 Palestinians. Israel had all the technology. These people had none. But could Israel use all the technology? They had Air Force. They used the Air Force. They bombed out the whole of Gaza, and Hamas has won. So this is a new type of war, which we have to remember. Where is the battlefield? Not in Gaza. Into our living rooms, into our dining rooms, into our bedrooms. That is where the war is.
In some good news, Sri Lanka's GDP for the third quarter of 2023 has increased to 2,946.1 billion rupees, as opposed to 2,900.6 billion rupees recorded in the third quarter of 2022. The year-on-year GDP growth rate for the third quarter of the year 2023 has been reported as 1.6% positive growth rate, according to the Census and Statistics Department in its latest report. Agricultural, industrial and services activities expanded by 3.3%, 0.3% and 1.3% respectively in the third quarter of 2023. The third quarter of 2023 began with favorable change in uncertainties in foreign exchange as opposed to previous quarters, and the economy and its expectations about the future, where growth was forecasted at a lower rate, was transformed into a positive state. Input costs declined parallel to the favorable change in exchange rates, and the demand for debt, which were at a lower level, showed a positive indication in this quarter, along with a reduction in interest rates. With the expansion of the tourism sector, a positive impact was noted in service exports during this quarter. The Court of Appeal has terminated the consideration of the petition filed against the Gazette notification issued by former Sports Minister Roshan Ranasinghe to appoint an interim committee for Sri Lanka cricket. The judge bench did so by allowing leave of the petitioners to reconvene their application if a legal need deemed reasonable arises in the future.
The writ petition filed by President of Sri Lanka Cricket Shammi Silva against the Gazette notification issued by former Sports Minister Roshan Ranasinghe to appoint an interim committee for Sri Lanka cricket was taken up for hearing this morning before a two-member appeal court judge bench comprising Justices D.N. Samarakon and Sobita Rajakaruna. Appearing on behalf of the Minister of Sports, Harin Fernando, President's counsel Kushandi Alvis said that his client had taken measures to rectify the technical errors in the Gazette issued by former Minister of Sports Roshan Ranasinghe by appointing an interim committee for Sri Lanka cricket and had published the rectified Gazette announcement on the 13th of December. Justice Sobita Rajakaruna inquired the attorney who appeared on behalf of the petitioner as to whether there was a need to continue the relevant petition, taking the new developments into account. In response, President's counsel Ramesh De Silva, who appeared for the SLC President, said that the petitioner agrees to conclude the hearing while reserving his right to recall the petition again depending on the need. Accordingly, the appeal court bench decided to close the case proceedings while reserving the right of the petitioner to recall the petition.
Moving on to other news, former president and leader of Sri Lanka's Podujana Peramuna party, Mahinda Rajapaksa, says that his party will continue to be the most powerful force in the country and urged members of the public to not hand over the responsibility of the country to those who historically evaded taking responsibility of the country when it was needed. He made these comments while addressing the National Convention of Sri Lanka's Podujana Peramuna Party.
The National Convention of the governing party, the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, commenced in Colombo this evening under the patronage of its leader, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa. During the convention, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa was unanimously re-elected as the leader of Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna.
අපි අනිවාර්යෙන්ම ඕනම මැතිවරණයක් තිබුවොත් අනිවාර්යෙන්ම පොට්ටුව දිනන කටයුතු කරනවායි කියන එක අපි සඳහන් කරනවා. ඒ වගේම අපේ ආණ්ඩුව පිහිටවන්න හොඳට මතක තියාගන්න. අපි 2005 දී රට බාර ගන්නකොටත් අපිට මඩ ගැව්වා. ඔබ දන්නවා 20 අවුරුදු යුද්ධෙදී මේ රටේ කිසිම නායකයෙක් ප්‍රභාකරන් එක්ක මුහුණට මුහුණ යුද්ධ කරන්න බැරි වුණා. සමහර නායකයෝ යුද්ධේ නවත්තන්න කියලා ප්‍රභාකරන්ට ආයුධ පවා දුන්නා. මතකද? මම අහන්නේ කවුද කියලා. ඒ ආයුධ වලින්ම ප්‍රභාකරන් අපේ රණවිරුවන්ට වෙඩි දිව්වා. යුද්ධයක් ගැන මතකයක් නැති දරුවන් අද තරුණයන් ලෙස මේ රටට සමාජගත වෙමින් ඉන්නවා. ඔබ දන්නවා. හැබැයි මිත්‍රවරුනි මේ දරුවෝ රවට්ටගෙන තමන්ගේ දේශපාලන අවශ්‍යතා සපුරා ගන්න උත්සාහ කරන පිරිසකුත් දැන් ඉන්නවා. එයාලා හැමදාම කරේ විවේචන විතරයි. 2015 දී රටේ ඇතැම් පිරිසකට වෙනසක් ඕන උනේ. ඒ වෙනස ඇවිල්ලා කරපු දේ තමයි අර ආර්ථික වර්ධන වේගය 100ට ඍණ 0.2 වෙනකම්ම පල්ලම් බැස්සුව එක. අපි කවුරු නොහිතපු විදියට එදා කොවිඩ්-19 බලපෑම් ආවේ ඒ වගේ මිදවැනුණු ආර්ථික පසුබිමක් තිබුණු රටකට. ඒ නිසා යුද්ධයෙන් මිනිස්සු මැරෙන එක නවත්තපු අපි කොවිඩ් වලින් මිනිස්සු මැරෙන එක නවත්වන්න වැඩ කළා කියන එක ඔබට මතක ඇති. ඒ අභියෝගයක් අත් නොහැර සිටින වෙලාවක තමයි අර ජනතාව කුපිත කරපු ව්‍යාපාර ආරම්භ වුණේ. එතැන් පටන් සිද්ධ වුණු දේවල් ඔබ තමුන්නාන්සේලා දන්නවා. ඒ නිසා බොරුව ජනගත කරන්න උත්සාහ කරන කණ්ඩායම හමුවේ අපි තවත් ඇස් කන් පියාගෙන සිටිය යුතු නැහැ. සමහරු බලය ගන්න කලින්ම සූට් මහලයි තමයි ඉන්නේ දැන්. මේ සූට් මහලා ඉන්න කවුරුත් රට අමාරුවේ වැටිච්ච වෙලාවේ සූට් එක ඇඳේ නැහැ. එහෙම නායකයන්ට මේ රට වාර දෙන්න ඔබ සූදානම්ද? ඒ නිසා මොන බලවේගාවත් හෙට දවසෙත් රටේ ප්‍රබලම බලවේගය නියෝජනය කරන්නේ අපේ පක්ෂය ශ්‍රී ලංකා පොදුජන පෙරමුණයි කියලා තමුන්වහන්සේලා අපි විශ්වාසයෙන් කියනවා.
17 suspects engaged in illegal fishing off the coast of Manna, Kalmunai Point in Jaffna and the Negombo Beach area were arrested by the Sri Lanka Navy. The individuals and the apprehended paraphernalia were handed over to the authorities for further investigation. With that, let's take a look at developments from around the island in brief.
During a search operation conducted off Silavantura, Bankale in Manna, Kalmunai Point in Jaffna and the Negombo Beach area, the Sri Lanka Navy arrested 17 individuals engaged in illegal fishing. The operation also led to the apprehension of 6 dinghies, diving gear and about 743 illegally harvested sea cucumbers. The individuals, 6 dinghies, diving equipment and sea cucumbers were handed over to the fisheries inspectors of Silavatura in Jaffna and the Assistant Directorate of Fisheries in Negombo and Manna for onward legal action. An accident was reported from the Maui region this morning after a lorry and a bus carrying school children collided. 2 students as well as the driver of the lorry sustained injuries following the accident. A suspect along with 4 stolen motorcycles was arrested in Kaluthura today. The suspect has been stealing motorcycles parked near the Kaluthura South Railway Station for a certain period of time. The police confirmed that the suspect is a motorcycle mechanic.
Welcome back. The Bank of Ceylon plans to raise a minimum of 6 billion rupees through an issuance of Basel III compliant debentures with non-viability write-down features. The Colombo Stock Exchange said that it has approved in principle an application for listing BOC's debt securities. The offer will be 50 million BASEL 3 compliant Tier 2 listed rated, unsecured, subordinated, redeemable 5-year debentures with non-viability write-down features at 100 rupees each to raise a sum of up to 5 billion rupees. In the event of an oversubscription, the bank has the option to issue up to a further 50 million of the debentures to increase the sum by up to a further 5 billion rupees. The subscription list will open on the 21st of December. Moving on to stocks news, the Colombo Stock Exchange closed in red today, led by losses in industrials and communication services. For the week, the all share price index fell 0.48%, snapping 2 weeks of gains.
The Colombo Stock Exchange All-Share Price Index dropped 0.39%, ending at 10,742.08 points, sliding for a third straight session. For the week, the index fell 0.48%, snapping 2 weeks of gain. Expo Lanka Holdings and Sri Lanka Telecom were the top losers on the ASPI, dropping 2.95% and 2.31% respectively. Trading volume on the index rose to 53.9 million shares from 39.4 million shares in the previous session. The S&P SL20 meanwhile dropped 0.53% and settled at 3,102.64 points. Market turnover fell to 508.9 million rupees from 674.5 million rupees in the previous session. The food, beverage and tobacco sector was the top contributor to market turnover, while the banking sector was the second highest contributor. Foreign investors were net sellers, offloading stock worth 86.8 million rupees, while domestic investors were net buyers, purchasing shares worth 469.5 million rupees.
The Colombo Stock Exchange today announced the changes in the S&P Sri Lanka 20 index constituents made by S&P Dow Jones indices at the 2023 year-end rebalance. DFCC Bank, Dialog Asiata, Distilleries Company, Hatton National Bank and Nations Trust Bank are included in the latest S&P composition. The constituents replaced are Brown's Investments, Dipped Products, Expo Lanka Holdings, Richard Pires & Co. and Sri Lanka Telecom. The exclusion and inclusion as announced by S&P Dow Jones indices are effective from the 18th of December onwards. Now let's have a look at how the rupee traded against other major currencies as the day progressed. Sri Lanka's United Motors, in a statement, said that it had acquired a 100% stake in Dutch Lanka Trailer Manufacturers DLT Limited, along with Dutch Lanka Engineering Private Limited, a subsidiary of DLT, in October. Meanwhile, Prime Land Residencies has won 2 silver awards at the recently held TAGS Awards 2023. With that, let's have a look at corporate news for the day.
United Motors Lanka announced a share purchase agreement between the company and TRF Singapore to acquire a 100% stake in Dutch Lanka Trailer Manufacturers Limited, along with Dutch Lanka Engineering Limited. DLT is a BOI registered company incorporated in 1992 and is engaged in the design, engineering and manufacture of a range of port and road trailers for both domestic and export markets. Meanwhile, DFCC Bank has entered into a strategic collaboration with John Keel's Properties to streamline home financing for potential buyers of units at JKH's Property Viman in Jaila. The partnership enables home buyers to enjoy exclusive benefits, including competitive interest rates starting from 13.5% per annum with a flexible down payment requirement. In the meantime, Prime Lands Residencies has won 2 silver awards in both the land and property companies sector and the emerging listed companies sector at the TAGS Awards 2023 recently held in Colombo. TAGS, an acronym for Transparency, Accountability, Governance and Sustainability, represents the annual report competition organized by CA Sri Lanka. The awards emphasize the core values of financial, environmental, social and governance reporting, fostering transparency among companies producing annual reports.
That wraps up all the news I have on my bulletin this evening. Have a great weekend ahead and a blessed Saturday tomorrow. For now, this is Jonathan Benedict. Good night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit AdaDerana.lk.